Green Builder Media webinar. We're going to get started here in 15 seconds. So just sit tight. We'll be right back. All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's National Business Women's Week. So to help support business women in the building industry, we've got a great webinar lined up, and it's powered by NV Energy. Today, we're going to learn how home energy ratings can positively affect your business and improve your bottom line by adding value to your customers through enhanced energy efficiency, lower energy bills, and higher resale value. Here to tell us how you can attract more customers with home energy ratings is Les Lazaruk. He is a building performance expert focused on maximizing the comfort, health, safety, energy efficiency, and durability of both commercial and residential buildings through his company, Home Energy Connection LLC. Les is a certified energy manager, a ResNet home energy rater, trainer, and quality assurance designee, and a Building Performance Institute healthy home evaluator, building analyst, envelope air conditioning and heat pump professional, energy auditor, quality control inspector, trainer, and proctor. He has provided building science trainings across the U.S. and in the Ukraine, and has presented at many national conferences. Les lives in a net zero electric home and is committed to ensuring building owners realize the performance benefits of their building's design. Before we get started, I need to tell you about PowerShift by NV Energy. You can never save too much energy or money. That's why NV Energy has introduced PowerShift to help its residential and business customers conserve even more energy and save money on their power bills. PowerShift by NV Energy is also about providing you with excellent customer service. It's your one-stop shop to find all the energy-efficient products and services to help you boost your bottom line, along with convenient ways to manage your account. PowerShift Energy Advisors are dedicated to working side by side with business customers to discuss their needs and to find energy efficiency solutions that save money. Plus, their Business Solutions Center is the place to go to discuss your bill payments and account-related questions. For more information, please visit nvenergy.com/PowerShift. During the course of today's presentation, you can submit questions for our guest. Simply use that questions box that you see over on the right side of your screen. Now, we're going to do our best to answer them as they come in, but we're also going to set aside time at the end of the presentation for Q&A as well. So Les, I'll let you take it from here.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the nice introduction, Mike, and good to have everybody who's joined the conference, the webinar. I understand there's people from all over the country, so I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to be presenting to you on how to attract more customers with home energy ratings. And as we move forward, I'll learn more about who is listening today. So here's an outline of what the content of this webinar will be covering, and we'll start with what do home buyers want, then get into home energy ratings and what's the relation with how the rating produces the index score, evaluate how popular are these ratings, and throughout the webinar we'll be introducing and discussing the different benefits, pros and cons of how to market. So let's get rolling. So we're going to ask the audience, who's in the audience? Give me a little info on who's participating today. So in one moment, we'll see that. So I'm not seeing the survey, so I'm
Looks like we have 57% being home builder, contractor, architect, engineer in that category. We've also got some energy auditors and raters, and then we have some people who fall into the other category.
Beautiful. And we've got one more question. So, what version of the Energy Code are you using, if you're aware of that?
Looks to be about half the audience is on the 15, with a handful with the 09, and some people who just don't know for sure exactly what jurisdictions or what energy code is being used by their jurisdiction.
Excellent. Well, thanks for giving me a little bit more information about who's in the audience, and very impressed to see the large percentage that are involved with the more current energy codes, or the most current one currently. So first I want to start with, since we've got the bulk of the audience are home builders or individuals who are involved in the new home construction, I am going to be addressing existing homes and those who are down the road looking at resale homes as well. So the Shelton Group, if you're not familiar with, publishes reports yearly or every other year. And from the current report, Energy Pulse 2016, which was conducted in September of last year, you can see 81% of people who expect to buy a new home in the next 2 years say higher energy efficiency would cause them to choose one new home over the other. And if you're familiar with Sam Raskin from the DOE, who oversees the Zero Energy Ready program, he shares similar information about buyers of Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready homes as well. The other info on this particular survey that the Shelton Group did in September, there were about 2,300 participants from the US and Canada. And the demographics, they made sure they addressed the demographics by location, geography, the age, gender, education, and race. So it's a great, the accuracy based on that information is expected to be around 2% range. So if everybody, since 80% of people want energy efficient homes, does this mean that as long as a home builder and realtor rattles off a whole list of energy efficiency features to prospective buyers, this home should just be purchased right away? Well, we know that's not the case, right? Probably not. Otherwise, nothing would be on MLS and builders would have no inventory. And some of you may be in areas where the demand is so great, you're not that concerned. Your inventory times are really short, or they've almost been pre-sold before they're right as you're starting a development or a new phase. So what Suzanne Shelton from the Shelton Group really adds to this is the need to present the benefits of energy efficiency. And we'll show how this ties into the home energy rating. She also adds the profile of people who want a greener, better performing existing home is essentially the same as that of the people looking for a new home. And these are the demographics that their survey found. And as you can see, they both want the low predictable monthly costs, which a HERS rating we'll see will be able to provide that information, good indoor air quality, comfort, and quality. The The majority of people believe when they see a home referred to as high performance, it indicates a higher quality. So how are home builders differentiating their home from other builders? And since we have a large number in this audience, I went to a few different websites of different developments from 3 different national production builders. And being familiar with these particular developments, these were the main points that were describing their homes. And if we notice in this particular one, only word that really comes into play that has anything to do really with energy efficiency or a high performance is the word comfort regarding where the windows are placed and designed. Here's another one that they really focus on this floor plan, other features of the homes. Stackable sliding doors seems to be a big trend right now. And they do mention the last line about an innovative energy saving program. Then it gets even more interesting. Here's a development that builds a home 49% better than the 2006 energy code, above Energy Star. And they do not mention anything on their homepage or in the description of the models about energy efficiency. And here's another Energy Star builder. On their website, no comments, no reference to the performance and the quality of their construction. Likewise for realtors. How are they advertising their listing? And going online, seeing some of the definitions, the data, the details on these homes. As you can read through, a large living and dining room, granite countertops, huge master bedroom, great large cul-de-sac, park your RV here. No mention of energy efficiency, the comfort of the home. Everything is more aesthetics. I think we'll start to see, sometimes it's the invisible that's the most important. Here's another home. And these are real high-end homes as well as ones that are geared to the more middle class, who may be more sensitive to their operating costs. So just to look at the difference. Notice the difference between the status quo of what typically is being marketed, the countertops, the height of the ceiling, the type of appliances, maybe mention that, wow, there's a tankless water heater. RV parking is always important, versus what I just shared that the buyer wants. Energy efficiency features is a buzzword, and why aren't we seeing these being marketed by the builders or realtors? They mention high performance in the report. Maybe this is something that builders and realtors might want to take a look at their collateral, their marketing. How are they positioning? And here we see the HERS score on the bottom, the home energy rating score. So why does the home builder or the realtor keep making it so hard for home buyers to get what they want? We already discussed, they want efficiency. As Suzanne Shelton stated around August 3rd of this year, we need to have every realtor in America recommend making home offers contingent on an energy audit as well as a home inspection. That one was geared more for the resale. But she also goes on to ensure that the energy audit or the HERS rating provides a comprehensive prescriptions for truly improving a home's air quality, comfort, and energy waste. So while this was geared, as I mentioned, to the resale, it applies directly to new construction and new homes as well. So what is a home energy rating? As you can read, a HERS home energy rating requires a certified ResNet home energy rater, modeling software that's approved by ResNet, and on-site diagnostic testing. The HERS rating then generates through the software a HERS index number that represents the home's energy efficiency. And the image on the right is a graphic that you may have already seen, where a reference home we'll discuss is based on the 2006 Energy Code. The HERS score, the lower the number, the better. Now, the HERS index was developed by ResNet, or the Residential Energy Services Network, in 2006. And it has become the industry standard by which we find residential homes' energy efficiency is measured, and it is recognized by the Department of Energy, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the EPA as the official verification for energy performance. So what does an energy rating entail? And as I'm pointing out here, in addition, so we'll start off with some of the basics here. Diagnostic testing, specialized equipment such as a blower door, a duct leakage tester, sometimes on existing homes and resale, we'll find infrared cameras and combustion analyzers are used. So if we can determine the amount and location of air leaks in a building, and the tighter the home, we'll find, based on building science, that will have a direct impact on air quality, the sizing of the heating and cooling systems, and apply directly to the comfort of the occupants. Also, measuring duct leakage makes sure that the air is being delivered to the individual rooms as designed, further improving comfort. And in addition, is the insulation installed effectively? We find most homes have the right components, but installation quality is the bigger factor. And with combustion, based on where combustion appliances, a furnace, your oven, and the dynamics of the home, there's real value in testing the value, or to test the home to make sure that based on how the home is built, that the combustion appliances will operate safely. So what are some of the variables that go into creating the home energy or home energy rating, the HERS score? And it's very similar to what engineers use when they're designing a home or designing a heating and air conditioning system and calculating the loads. We need to know what type of exterior walls there are, what's the material, what's the insulative properties, as well as floors over conditioned space. You may have a garage with living space, either a bedroom or a loft above. You may also live in one. You wonder, why is this bedroom so hot in the summer and much cooler than the rest of the house in the winter? Others, the ceiling and roofs. Where's the insulation? How much? The foundation, if there's a basement or if there's a crawl space, how is it designed? How is it insulated? For windows and doors, how much glass is made up on a wall or takes up the wall? And what is the performance of the windows? You may have seen stickers from an organization called NFRC that indicates really what's the insulative value, how much of the sun rays or the heat from the sun is being prevented from entering the house. And then the specifications on the HVAC system. How efficient is the heating equipment? Is there mechanical ventilation in, and how much energy is that taking? As well as what's the performance of the air conditioning system installed? In addition, water heating systems, is it a tankless? Is it a storage? Is it electric? Is it gas? All of those will impact performance, as well as, is there a hot water distribution method? Have you been in a home where you've got to wait minutes till you can get hot water? Or have you been into a home that it's a matter of seconds? And also the orientation of the home. These are some basic variables that come into play. As I mentioned earlier, the lower the HERS index score, the better. Homes that have a lower HERS index score will cost less to run, will be more energy efficient, and provide better comfort. And as we'll talk about, higher resale values. I also mentioned previously, that the HERS index is based on a reference home with a score of 100. 0 represents a zero energy home, which is a home that produces all the energy it needs over 12 months. When Mike introduced me, he mentioned I live in a net zero electric home. That means I produce, or my home produces, all the electricity my home needs over a course of a year, but I still use gas for water heating, cooking, and my dryer. Here's an example of a HERS certificate, and I know it's small, so let me highlight a couple items here. We're getting that mouse where we need it. And so here we can see a blow up of the HERS index. This one has a 42. So that 42 refers to this home being what, am I calculating that right? 58% more efficient than the 2006 reference home. Also notice that this home is large. It's just under 6,700 square feet. And if you notice, it has 18 SEER air conditioners and a very efficient furnace. It's also, this report shows that there's no duct leakage to outside. This means if you're looking at this report, you know that all the mechanical equipment, the ducts, the air handler, the furnace, are all in what we call the envelope, the building components of the house, so that the ducts are never going to be subjected to temperatures really much greater than 5 or 8 degrees different than what we have in the house. This home also, it's indicating on the bottom that all the lighting in this home is LED. If I move over to the right, the HERS report also gives you an estimated annual energy cost. So for this roughly 6,700 square foot home, based on this HERS score and the inputs and the testing of the building tightness, the duct tightness, etc., it's demonstrating, based on the utility cost, a usage of total cost of energy of about $2,800, $2,900. So some pretty cool information that can be derived from a home energy certificate. And I think hopefully some of you are thinking, wow, maybe I need to make this a bigger part of the sale. Or there's some who are thinking, well, maybe if it's in home is not performing, maybe I don't want to show it. Well, we're getting a more educated customer. The home buyer is becoming more educated. And as we'll see, with the proliferation or the wide adoption of HERS ratings, we'll find that it's probably, if you haven't had customers asking what the HERS score is, I think you're going to see that. I think you'll start to find more and more customers, home buyers, starting to ask as it hits that tipping point. So another way to look at the HERS score could be as the miles per gallon is to a car. So we're looking at this image on the left. We can see that here's an example of a gas engine car that getting 38 miles per gallon. But you can buy that same vehicle with a hybrid version that will get 65 miles to the gallon. And it gives you an estimated amount of the cost per year. Similarly, we can find energy guide labels on refrigerators and other appliances. And these energy guide labels are on appliances whether they're Energy Star or not. So the one on the right, the Energy Guide label on the left is a refrigerator that's non-Energy Star, and it's rated at 284 kilowatts, versus the one on the right is a very efficient Energy Star refrigerator that's using less than half the amount of energy over the course of the year. So again, HERS score gives you the ability, or a home buyer, the ability to compare the efficiency, the performance, the cost of owning and living in this house compared to another home. So as I mentioned, we'd be talking about different benefits of a HERS rating, and we've been doing that as we have moved along here. So we can compare houses based on energy performance, get a more accurate cost of the ownership, the total cost of ownership. Maybe you're looking at a brand new home and they're offering you different upgrades. Well, some of them are energy related. They can model that to see what's the impact of moving to a higher efficiency air conditioner or furnace, greater insulation, and this also applies for existing homes. What programs? Here's a list of programs that currently require a HERS energy rating. Since the majority of on the call we're dealing with energy codes at the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code, there's a compliance path called an ERI, the Energy Rating Index. And this rating index prescribes a target HERS score that will permit the home that meets that design to be built and be approved by the code. And it gives the builder a lot of trade-off options. You know, if I have these great windows, maybe I can use a less efficient air conditioning, or if my ducts are well, there's still certain mandatory items, but they can play with the insulation based on the performance of the windows, for instance. Energy Star, the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program, the Passive House program, and the U.S. Green Building Council's Lead for Home. Other programs in the mortgage industry, the Energy Efficient Mortgage, and these apply to both new homes as well as energy improvements or for resale, as well as the home style mortgage. And there has been a tax credit called the 45L, the Builder Energy Efficient Home Federal Tax Credit. It did disappear at the end of 2016. However, if you're a builder or you were involved in any homes that were built during 2012 and through 2012 through 2016, and the HERS score through the same software shows that that home will qualify, you're leaving about $2,000 per home, or if it's multifamily, on the table.
Hey, Les, I got a question. On that last slide there, you talked a little bit about certain requirements for ductwork and that sort of thing through the ERI. Can you talk a little more about the prescriptive requirements that the ERI calls for?
So the ERI isn't so much calling for the prescriptive requirements, or the mandatory requirements are coming from the Energy Code. And there's three primary paths to compliance. One is completely prescriptive, which will state that you need X amount of insulation in the walls or or in the ceiling, that the air conditioning needs to be a minimum of a certain SEER, the furnace has to have a certain performance level. There's another compliance of performance-based, and that allows, typically it uses the same software that we would use for a HERS rating or an ERI, but it's not focusing on the score. It's allowing the designer to pick and choose, but still make sure that it meets the overall cost requirement, or what they call dollar performance of that home. The third compliance path is this the ERI, and you can get with a rater that can work with the details of the energy rating. But as we look at like an Energy Star home or a Zero Energy Ready home that requires a certain HERS score, oftentimes the score that those programs are requiring will typically, based on your jurisdiction and any amendments that have been made to the code, typically will come in and satisfy that requirement. So if you've got more details or more information or more questions on that particular matter, maybe you can share your email and I can get in touch with you directly on that.
One other quick follow-up on that list. Through the ERI, there are certain minimum scores you have to hit, and it corresponds to your climate zone, correct?
Correct, as well as not only the climate zone, but many jurisdictions around the country have found that the published targets in the code were too difficult to reach, were too extreme, and have modified them or have increased the scores, where the code may have said for your climate that you needed to hit a 51 or a 55. I've seen jurisdictions who have moved those up to 58 or 64. So you would need to check on your jurisdiction and your amendments.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So as you can see, it's been a very exciting year for ResNet, where they've just surpassed the 2 millionth home that's been rated. Pretty dramatic. And they seem to be increasing, the amount that are being rated seems to be increasing over the years. Just looking at last year's data, over 206,000 homes were rated at an average index score of 61. So much, much better than the 2006 code, as well as over 200 came in at a net zero or better. Now, what's better than net zero? One that's actually producing excess power. And in some communities, utilities are paying you for excess power. So here's a breakdown that ResNet provided of the percent of new homes last year receiving HERS ratings. I mean, if you can't see any of the percentages are a little small, this presentation will be made available, as well as it is being recorded, so you can come back to this slide. The ones with the red dot are communities or states that have adopted the 2015 Energy Code and agree to have the Energy Rating Index count as one of the performance or compliance paths. So with these 2 million homes on the market or that have been rated for the last few years, all homes have had to be registered. And so ResNet has put together this registry which will list homes over the last few years that have been registered. And the public can go to this website. You can enter the address, maybe just enter a street name, enter a state, and go ahead and click find. And on this particular test that I did, I chose one street and I found 2 homes that were the same model. And I noticed, wow, they've got 2 different HERS scores. The one on the left was rated in 2015, and the one on the right with the lower score was rated this February. What are things that can affect, why is the same home? Why is one's HERS score 7 points lower than the other? So it can be affected by orientation. If you look, the addresses, one's even, one's odd. So most likely they're on opposite sides of the street. Floor plan could have also been mirrored. It could be dealt with by construction quality. Maybe one crew, the ducts were significantly tighter and far exceeded what was required. Same with the building envelope. Maybe one has higher efficiency air conditioning or a furnace. Maybe one home is 100% LEDs and one is not. So multiple factors that can come into play here. And it's very cool that you can look up a home, especially on the resale market, and get an idea when you're putting in your listing. Because, wow, this information's here. This is a good HERS score. I want to make sure and include it. And this illustration is, where are the HERS raters in the country? And there's HERS raters in every state, and there are multiple HERS raters that work across states as well. The underlined, the states that have their number underlined, these are states that over 25% of the homes that were built last year were rated. And this next one shows the ERI score in the national directory. And so last year, this was, I should say, in the directory as of July of this year. And there's whopping almost 59,000 homes that have been using this performance pathway or entering the HERS score. So if you're not familiar with ResNet, I just want to throw this slide in so that everybody knows they are a not-for-profit membership corporation, and they're operated and governed by 20 elected board members who are all members as well. Any of the standards or amendments that are made to the ResNet standard is consensus-based. So what is coming? Something, if you're involved in the real estate world, or if you're a home builder, or if you're a realtor, or if you're in the finance world, there's going to be a new portal coming for the Appraisal Institute of HERS scores that will auto-populate an MLS system with the HERS index scores. Now, I'm aware that across the country, the majority of MLS systems do not have a field yet for the HERS score, but that is growing. More and more MLSs are adding the ability to enter the HERS score. So when we look at valuing a higher performance home, getting this portal operating, getting appraisers trained will have a huge impact. So how do we get the true value of a home? Let's provide the builder, the home buyer, with the HERS rating. Have the builders and the homeowners provide the documentation. What are the actual specs, like the home energy rating certificate showed? If you have an MLS with the capability of adding a HERS score, utilize it. In Southern Nevada, we can add the solar, we can add, I think the date it was rated, or if it was an existing home, if it had an energy audit, or other performance fields. Utility bills may be something you want to look at and offer as well. But it really comes down to another big factor is dealing with competent appraisers. And these are appraisers that have earned the Sustainable Green Buildings designation. So if you know you have a high performance home, you want to make sure that someone with the designation is doing the assessment or doing the appraiser. Highlighted below shows this competency rule, and this is standard practice by the Appraisal Institute. And you can go online and find a list of the appraisers that meet this requirement in your community. For instance, in Southern Nevada, there are only three appraisers out of about 50 that are capable and are trained to do this. So hopefully I was able to provide you with some useful information, maybe stir up some questions. Please let me know if you've got questions, and we'll take questions now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I had a question for you based on something we were just talking about there, Les. What advice would you give to those who want to green their MLS? Like how does, let's say they're a builder or an energy rater or an architect, what are the steps that they would go through to reach out to help the realtor community green the MLS?
The number one place to start is first get in touch with your MLS organization in your community. You may find there are more and more organizations or MLS organizations that will have a green rater, pardon me, a green realtor certification program. In these communities, there are a great audience that may already be lobbying to go through the process of adding fields to the MLS. Certainly, it's political. What isn't nowadays? But start with your MLS. Find other realtors who see value and benefit. And just like you're dealing with a politician, it is something that's probably not going to happen overnight. But stay with it and get these green fields added.
Okay, and I wanted to make sure to encourage our guests, or our audience, I should say, to send in questions for our guest. You can do so with the questions box on the right side there. I did have another question for you, Les, and it does go back to an early slide. You don't have to necessarily pull the slide up. I'm just giving you some context here. You talked earlier about people in their early 30s, well-educated with well-paying jobs, and empty nesters, and they both had the same interest in energy-efficient homes. Those would seem to be two different financial situations. You would assume that the empty nesters have probably accrued a lot more savings than those in their early 30s. So how does the conversation change when you're talking to those two different demographics?
Not only what I have found and what I hear from different builders or in doing work on existing homes, I don't know if it's so much, well, there's also a differentiation between, while people say they want an energy efficient home, some are thinking from the point of saving money, and there's another group that are looking at it from not wasting money. And those are two different groups of people. Those that tend not to want to waste money tend to be the wealthier. Those that are looking to save money tend to be those that aren't as wealthy, or like the empty nesters. I don't know if that's really where I'm finding how to address these two different demographics between the millennials and the empty nesters.
Does PACE financing come into that conversation at all?
PACE financing, Public Assistance Clean Energy, I believe it stands for.
Property assessed clean energy, yeah.
Thank you. Property assessed clean energy. PACE financing, if it is available, which is for existing homes for resale, which allows a home's energy improvements to be financed into the loan. And just as Mike was saying, by utilizing a HERS rating, it'll project based on the present value of those improvements if that measure will be cost effective over the term of that assessment. So the concept is, if the improvements, the cost of the improvement, let's say, or without the improvement, you're spending $100 a month on average for utilities, but with the improvement, it's going to drop it to $50 a month. You've got an increase in cash flow, but if the increase of the assessment is less than $50 that was calculated, it's going to be an effective improvement.
And you bring up something very interesting in your answer there, Les, if it's available. It's not available nationwide. It's typically dealt with on a county and a municipal level, maybe a state level. And the reason it is run in that way is because it has to do with your property taxes. And so that's where those decisions are made. And so those are the jurisdictions or the authorities having jurisdiction that are going to make those decisions on whether PACE financing is available in your area or not.
Absolutely. And in Nevada, after 6 or 8 years of presenting to the legislature, or I should say, it finally passed this last term, but only for commercial. But there are a handful of states that have well-established programs that I understand show a lot of success.
And I think
anybody on the call, I was going to say, if anybody on the call has had experience, positive or negative experience with PACE, please let us know.
Right, and the concept of PACE financing is starting to proliferate through different states, different counties, and that sort of thing. So it's a growing trend. It's still in its newness, I guess, but it is growing. We did get a question from Albert. He wants to know if we can get a copy of these slides. Les, I'll let you speak to that.
Correct. These slides will be made available, and Mike, you can let them know how they'll access it.
Right. Your contact information is right there on the screen, Les. So I would encourage them to reach out to you directly, and that way,
perfect,
they can get a copy of the slides, whether they be in PowerPoint or in PDF format. But thank you for the question, Albert.
Correct.
I guess I got another question for you, and I'm kind of making the final call for questions from the audience at this time. But I'm sure that you've probably faced this question before, Les. What's the easiest way for me to lower my HERS score? Whether that be, for a code requirement or some kind of financial incentive or whatever it is. And I know from being a participant in code hearings that there's always kind of this push-pull between, we got to insulate more or tighten up the envelope versus just put solar on the roof. So can you speak a little bit to, that, I guess, debate that often comes up?
Yeah, and as you said, it does often come up. And the variables that affect it, some of them are very climate dependent, such as if you're in a predominantly cooling climate, putting increasing the efficiency of the furnace is probably will not have as big of an impact on the HERS score as increasing the efficiency or the Sears rating of the air conditioning. Likewise, insulation. If you're on the West Coast near the beach where their heating and cooling loads are so low, significantly increasing insulation will really have pretty negligible amount or impact. Window performance, or if you have a lot of glass in the house, increasing the performance of the windows will definitely have a significant impact. On a brand new home, what we look at is it's really a combination. I was going to say slab edge insulation now is integrated into most codes, and moving forward to the 2018, they're looking to include it in all climate zones. And that can have a significant impact on a HERS score. Water distribution systems, I mentioned earlier, hot water, how long does it take to get to your home or to a faucet or your fixture? If you notice, they typically put the master bath or shower as far away from the water heater as possible. And a lot of water is wasted. So there's some pretty cool solutions for hot water delivery, one that uses a sensor or a button, and as soon as the water hits a certain temperature, the pump stops. And those are some of the most efficient. Other things that can improve HERS score would be, again, at a certain point, insulation, air tightness have diminishing returns. So work with your rater, and for your climate, you'll need to do some what ifs to see what works, what makes the most sense.
Okay. Well, seeing no further questions, we're going to go ahead and conclude today. I certainly want to thank you, Les, for sharing your insight with us today and your time. Very much appreciated. Any final words?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Please send an email to me at les@homeenergyconnection.com, or if you have other questions you didn't answer, that you did not ask, feel free to email me.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you to our audience for attending. Wanted to also thank NV Energy for their generous sponsorship of this webinar. We're going to see everybody back here on November 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Our guest will be Christopher Gregory, and he's from Whirlpool. We're going to be talking about appliance design trends for the modern home. So I hope you'll all be able to join us again in 2 weeks. Until then, have a wonderful day.